Right to the cloud. Okay. All right. So
Hello.
there it is. Okay. We're in. We're going. We're broadcasting, and we'll do it. I'll set a timer for 16 minutes or 15 minutes, and we'll see what happens. What was I saying about just now?
You talked about the ambidextrian. I was asking you
Oh
if you're
yeah, yeah, yeah.
handed,
Yeah,
and you told me,
so what I was saying is anyway, when I've taught younger people, children who come in and we get them to sit down and they try the guitar and like I say, it's awkward for everybody when they first start when you're holding learning to hold any musical instrument. It's something you have to teach your body to do, right? But I would notice with some kids that it would seem much more awkward than usual. And then I would say I got into the habit of saying, well, what hand do you write with? And then, well, how about we'll flip it over. How does that feel to you? And in a lot of cases, it was like, yep, that's that's right. So they knew right away that they needed to be oriented in a left-handed way to play the guitar.
so what you're saying is that they're right-handed, but then it feels more awkward for them to hold the guitar and use
Oh,
your.
oh no, I was just saying that as far as left-handed people, some left-handed people can play the guitar right-handed, like me. I can do that. And some of them, they're just, I guess you call them pure lefties. So
Mhm.
they would throw, they're going to hold a tennis racket, they're going to golf that way. Everything's going to be backwards. And for them, sometimes like I said, it becomes very obvious. It's like, well, okay, well, if we flip it around this way, and then it's, oh, yeah, that feels really good. And then, of course, you have to alter the instrument or get a special instrument designed for a left-handed player. But it's, yeah, it's interesting that I think some people might have a tendency to want to, well, somebody who's not a talented teacher would have a tendency to want to write that off and be
Mhm.
insistent on, well, you have to play in a right-handed
Yes.
way rather than let's flip it upside down and see what happens when you play it in an upside down fashion. But what's interesting is depending on the instruments, you cannot do that. You can do that with guitar. Most fretted instruments, you can flip them upside down and reconfigure the strings, or get an instrument that's especially designed for a left-handed player. But if you're going to play in like violin, like Isaiah is playing violin, right? It's not going to matter if he's predominantly left-handed because you can't put a left-handed player in an orchestra. There would be battles, the bows would be colliding, and everything would be a disaster, right?
In France, there is an expression we use. We say gaucher contrarié. So it's those people who are right-handed. But like my brother, I have a brother who is like that. He will do everything with his left hand.
Uh-huh.
He was forced almost to write with his right hand.
Right.
So we call him a gaucher contrarié, meaning a left. How do you say an upset, or um,
An upset left-hander.
left hand? Yes, because like,
Wow, I like
there
that.
are
Yeah.
some things. For example, like where I grew up, you can't use your left hand for doing noble things. You can't use your left hand to eat. They'll be like,
Yes.
why do you use your left hand? Use your right
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
You can. There are a lot of things that you don't use. They say basically you just use your left hand to clean up after potty. That's it. That's the use of your left hand. So
Yeah.
and so we call them, they're frustrated, right? They're frustrated
Frustrated,
lefties because
frustrated lefties.
they're naturally lefties, but they're forced almost to use their right hand
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
more
I want to share you
normal.
a story for me when I was in second grade, I think. I think when I was in second grade, since I was writing with my left hand, they were insistent that, you have the bucket with the scissors, and the left-handed scissors have the green coating around
Yes.
them, and
Yes.
I couldn't use the left-handed scissors.
Oh,
And the teacher just did not understand. Well, why can't you use the left-handed scissors? You're writing with your
you're
left hand.
right-handed,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's
It's so
yeah.
funny. I think that fits the what we say that we live in such a, you know, it's boxes, it's
Uh-huh.
clustered. It's like this is how things are supposed to be. You don't get out of it, right? So,
Right.
I can see many ways where that could be detrimental, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was for me a little bit, and I think I told you the story of my attempt to color an owl, and I wanted
Yeah.
to imitate Van Gogh, and it wasn't accepted by the teacher. And this was one of the things that was it was similar to that. Is like you got to use those horrible scissors with the green coating around them because you're left-handed, so therefore that's what you need to
I
use.
know, I feel like we want to contradict nature
Uh,
all the time.
yeah, yeah,
Yet, there there are a lot of things, when we talk about unnatural, we talked about it several times now, unnatural becoming the norm. And now
yeah.
the norm is not what is natural, it's what is
Mhm,
unnatural becomes the
mhm.
norm.
Yeah,
And for homeschooling, for education, generally speaking, I think kids thrive, thrive when we look at their nature skills, when
yeah,
we let them use those skills, they thrive, they go above and beyond. I've seen
yeah,
that. When we
yeah. And
force them
let them
to,
go with what feels like a natural preference to them, rather than saying you should prefer it to be
yeah,
this
it's
way.
a lot
Yeah,
of, I feel, when it's not in the flow, when it's not natural, when there is comment on appelle ça, where there is resistance,
yeah,
usually, it
yeah.
means that it's not the natural way to do, like
Right.
this
Yeah,
thing. I've found that to be true in many, many, many instances. A lot
yeah.
of areas where I have pushed, I've tried. I come back and say, maybe, it could have been easier if I've just accepted the way things are and just try
Are
something
you
else
talking about like with yourself?
with myself, with my
Uh-huh.
life
Yeah,
experiences.
yeah,
Even talking about intuition, things you think you know deep down that there are some things that you should be
mhm,
doing, that there
mhm.
are some things that you should stop doing, that there are some directions you need to go.
Yeah,
Um, but then I also think about nurturing, like Dan Siegel, he said, wherever your attention, goes, like that's where, your brains or neurons, where
yeah,
they fire, where you put your focus or
yeah.
attention, that's
Yep,
what
yep.
you end up doing. So I now I am thinking, is it when I try doing something that is opposite to what I feel like, should happen, is it a way, okay, we're going to be interrupted. I'm hearing Bella Joy, but this is a real world, right?
Right? This,
So
we're being
when
real.
interrupted, it's like it's
Yeah,
live, it's
yeah,
unfiltered.
yeah.
Uh, Sometimes I guess my point is, when we push things, we might end up having them, but at the end, I'm not sure if it's going to be positive or not,
Yeah,
right?
but the flip side of that, though, and I can speak from my experience as learning the guitar,
Oh,
especially,
yeah.
and it's true for other musical instruments. There was a point at the beginning where I didn't have any guidance. I was trying to teach myself, and it was so frustrating and so awkward and so unnatural, like you're saying, that I put it down and I didn't come back to it. Where whereas if I would have spent maybe a couple of days or a couple of weeks with it, what felt unnatural gradually would have become natural like it is to me
I
now.
think that would be the
Yeah.
exception. Like for me, it's like you're talking about learning a skill.
Yeah.
And we know that to learn a skill, it's practice that makes
Yeah.
you acquired. So I
Yeah.
would say that if you're learning a new thing, a skill, it's different than, something you're naturally inclined to do, right? Like the prodigies.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
talking about Mozart at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
at your Toastmaster. He
Hmm.
was protege. You know, at 4, he started composing and doing all of those
Yep.
things. We didn't
Yeah.
have to force him. Now, if you want to make another, like if I want to make Bella Joy a Mozart at 4-year-old, oh my goodness, you know, it's gonna be, there would be a lot of tears and difficulties because it's not natural, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that she won't be a prodigy. Like when she's older and then she practices regularly, she might acquire the skill, right?
Yeah.
But I think that there is a distinction here between learning a skill, like whatever you focus again your attention, you will build, right? But in terms of decisions or like you're naturally a lefty. If they, like my brother, he's a lefty, but he ended up writing. He writes with his right hand because he was
It was forced or strongly
forced to do
encouraged.
it. At the
Yeah.
end, he ended up doing it, right? But
Yeah.
where the natural comes is when he's playing soccer or all of those things. Everything else he does with his left hand or foot. So
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway,
I was just gonna say though, on the flip side of that, when you're talking about this with Bella Joy, if you decided that she wanted to be or you wanted her to be a pro tennis player or something, I was thinking of examples of like Tiger Woods, for example,
there
where
is a
his dad
wonderful
was
book.
teaching him at at 2 years old.
Yeah.
to do
So
that.
in this book, I forgot the name, but it's an amazing book it's about generalists, how generalists survive in a specialized world. It's an amazing book
Okay.
in my
Yeah.
library. I forgot just the name of anyway, the introduction of the book, it takes the example of Tiger Woods and Rafael Nadal. No, not Nadal. He not Andre Agassi, the other tennis player. He won all of the tennis things.
I'd probably, if you knew the name, I'd probably say, oh
Not
yeah,
Andre
yeah.
Agassi.
Andre,
Anyway,
not Agassi.
no, not Rafael Nadal, not Agassi, but the other one. He's a Europe. He's a German. He's German.
Oh.
Tennis player. Like if you write down. Anyway,
I was thinking Bjorn Borg, and no, he's
not
not
Bjorn,
German.
no, he's Russian. He like Wimbledon, not Wimbledon. The Roland Garros was the one that he couldn't win. He struggled and struggled, and then finally he won it 2 or 3 times. He was a number one tennis player for years, if you put it anyway. So he takes the example of both, and he said, you could like Tiger Woods, his parents were crazy in making him what he is, and he just did that. He focused on that, and then he became what he became. And the other guy, the tennis player that somehow I can't remember the name, his parents have him try everything. He did soccer, he did basketball, and then he just ended up with tennis, and then he loved it, and then he became. He was saying it was more sustainable. And he became that tennis champion, and he's still winning because of him.
Because he had the opportunity to try out lots of different things. Yeah.
And not doing it with, no stress
Right.
embedded in it. Right.
Yeah.
And so he was saying that he defends the case to be a generalist rather than to be a specialist, because then we know all of the issues that ended up happening with Tiger Woods, right?
Sure. Yeah.
The trauma and all of that. So that's a subject maybe for another discussion. And it's an amazing book, and I don't know why my mind is going blank.
Yeah. Well, when you're saying that, I'm not sure. Maybe I read it, or maybe at least read a summary or an excerpt or discussion about it somewhere, because that story sounds really familiar.
It is an excellent book. Yeah, it's an excellent book. And I call myself a generalist. There are so many things that I like to do. Judy, my coach, she said, I think when God was giving the gifts, he was kind of he gave you extra. Maybe you were his favorite.
Yeah.
I never laughing.
So here, try a couple of different things. Try a bunch of different things.
Anyway, but it's funny. I do like a lot of things. Now I know my passions more, and then I'm following, just a direction with the coaching that I'm doing. But I'm glad that I think my experience is even richer, my life experience, because I was able to do all of those things.
Yeah.
It's not one linear
exactly.
route.
And I think it's important to encourage children or anybody really to, if it turns your crank, go ahead and do it
Yeah.
and try it and see.
My favorite word when I was homeschooling the kids was exposure.
Yeah.
I want to
Yes.
expose them to the maximum because you don't
Yeah.
know where their passion is going to, just try everything.
Yep.
Make them
Yep.
curious, take them to the museum, take them to the zoo, take them to the beach,
Yes.
take them to the forest, take them everywhere so that they can experience the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So actually, we had 21 seconds left. We're gonna keep it in
Okay.
15,
So
but
we're going back on
we call this
Monday.
a, well, before we do that, we talked about handedness and we
Mhm.
talked about specialization versus generalization.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I will give you before you tag the thing. I'll give you the name. I'm gonna go downstairs right away and look up the book and
Perfect. Yeah.
the name of the the
Yeah.
tennis player. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can
That's
write it
fantastic.
down.
All right. Well, thank you. Anybody who joined us now, or if you're
Have a
watching this in the
beautiful
replay,
Saturday. The weather
have a,
here is amazing.
yeah, it's actually amazing here too. It's like in fall
Nice.
color. We got fall colors. There's going to
All
be some
colors.
rain
Yep,
just like yesterday. So
that's awesome.
yeah. All right. Everybody have a beautiful day.
Bye.
Yeah, see you soon. All right. That was good. And that was at, whoops.